الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين. له الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، لك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وانظروا نفسا ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. And you respected brothers and sisters in Islam, praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have, and that يكون النعمة من Allah. And we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, for guidance, for forgiveness, for health, for protection, and even for wisdom. In these blessed days, in this blessed day of Jumu'ah and blessed days of Ramadan, and we are about to start the best 10 nights and days of the year. There is hardly anything else that we need to talk or we can talk about appropriately more than preparation for these 10 nights and how we can have them very can be successful, and how we can also prepare for after Ramadan. There is no question about the fact that the 10 last nights of Ramadan are the best of the year. And inside those nights, there is one night that is better than life, Laylatul Qadr. Because again, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr, better than 1,000 months. It's just an eloquent way to say better than life. Because how many people live more than that? Especially if you add like the ages before puberty, how many? So Quran to tell us there is one night better than life, may it say khayrun min alfi shahr. It's even stronger language. In Ramadan, you have been working hard, and harder than other months. But in these last 10 days and nights, the goal is to reach your limits, which maybe you don't know them. Maybe you don't know your limit, but you need to push until you reach your limit. So, harder in the 20 days, and then reaching the limit in the last 10 months. You're going to have to try to dig out all your potential and energy that you may not be even aware of. Pushing your limits, meaning, or your boundaries, meaning you worship until you cannot. That you are staying, you are praying, you are studying or reflecting on the Quran, you are making dua until you cannot, until you really exhausted, fall asleep, and you take some rest and then you resume. I'm going to use some examples that will try to bring the idea closer on what's the proper attitude of the believer in the last 10 nights. You know, the runners, they keep running, but when they reach the last round, when they see the finish line, they run even faster. You think that they are exhausted by that time, but that finish, the sight of the finish line make them perform or reach even a higher level. That's exactly should be the similar attitude. Teams, they usually do very well, like during the regular season. They do better in the playoff, but players and teams, they perform at a different level at the final game or at the Super Bowl or whatever. That's also something similar. Student, good student, they may be working hard, but when it comes to the final week and the final exams, that's when their performance reaches the highest. If you can manage to take advantage of all nights, go for it. If you can make arrangement with your work so that you can really take advantage of all the nights, go for it. If you cannot, target the odd nights, the nights of the 21st, so between Ramadan 20th and 21st, and the night of 23rd, and the night before the 25th, and the 27th, and the 29th. Do as much as you can. Do the whole night. If you do half, 2/3, you can 1/3. If you do the math, 1/3 of the night is, you divide the night from Maghrib to Fajr to 3 parts. It starts about 2 o'clock or 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Time is very precious in these days and nights, and there is really no time to waste. And again, the key is to push and to reach your limits and boundaries. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help us taking advantage of the whole month of Ramadan, as we mentioned before, He put in Ramadan a lot of opportunities and incentives. You know, when people, they want you to buy, they give you discounts. They give you incentive to buy. So, or they want to recruit you, they give you incentives. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a lot of opportunities and incentives in Ramadan. And then, out of His mercy and wisdom, knows that by the 20th, people maybe become tired. So He elevated the incentives. He even pushed the incentive higher so that you can push your boundaries and you can reach your limit by injecting a night that is better than life. People, they push their boundaries for something much less than this. Athletes working for a gold medal, they work so hard for years, not for 10 days. For years, just to be on the podium to get the gold medal. Teams to want to win Super Bowl or to win the World Cup, just go and read how hard they work for years. Don't you think that a night that is better than life is not worth same commitment and same dedication at least? So make sure you remind yourself, only Allah knows who is going to have another chance at this night that is better than life. So the question is, what should we do? And as I mentioned before, life in Ramadan is meant to be an continuous act of worship. Here, life, all of life, is meant to be an act of worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. You should try your best to make all your life an act of worship. Now the difference is, outside Ramadan, most of the worship is indirect. It's what they call sometimes social worship. Social worship, your work, that's an act of worship. Anything that you do to help people, that's an act of worship, if it is done with proper intention. Anything you do with your family is an act of worship. So most of the worship outside Ramadan is indirect, serving the creation, to please the Creator, or serving the Creator by serving the creation. In Ramadan, it's the other way around. Most of the worship is direct, is a spiritual part. Another way to look at it, in Ramadan, you build your capacity. Outside Ramadan, you utilize that capacity. So capacity building is in Ramadan, and that's why Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reaches the limit, the peak in these last 10 days. Not only he dedicates them to worshiping Allah, but he even does i'tikaf. It's basically abandon this life altogether and stay in the mosque. You see the understanding that in Ramadan
he pushes the level of worship higher, but when it comes to the 10 nights, he just stays in the mosque, dedicated completely to worship. So, life of the believer in Ramadan is centered around 4 main activities. Should be. One is salah. Pray as much as possible and try to elevate the quality of your prayer. Again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Pray as much as possible, especially at night. As I mentioned, pray Taraweeh and then do as much as possible Qiyam. From 2 rak'ah before Fajr to 1/3 to 1/2. Everybody knows their limits and everybody should push to do the maximum. So pray, salah. Quran should be most of the time in Ramadan, but especially in these last 10 days and nights. And remember that when you pray, you are talking to Allah. When you read the Quran, Allah is talking to you. So keep that in mind all the time. There is nothing more effective to strengthen our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than Salah and Quran. Salah, you're talking to Allah. Quran, Allah is talking to you. And then we'll come back to more to elaborate on this, but the third and fourth is dhikr and dua. Yes, Quran is the highest form of dhikr, but also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes you to do the other dhikr, the tasbih, tahmeed, tahleel, takbir. And if you're not very familiar, it's very simple. One of the best dhikr that you can do, subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar. It's a very comprehensive one. Do as much as possible with the presence of heart, of course. With your heart is present. And number 4 is dua. Number 4 is dua. Of course, also part of dhikr is istighfar. Make sure that also you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Now for dua, strongly recommend that you prepare a list. If you didn't yet, you prepare a list of everything that you need. And you keep doing it all these coming days and months. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to be asked, and Allah loves to be asked with persistence, and loves to be asked with tadarra, begging. فَلَوْلَا إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا تَضَرَّعُوا. So show Allah how desperate you are for these, for your requests, and do it persistently, several times a day, in every sujood, wake up at night to do it, show Allah how bad you need them, and then do it with tadarra. Tadarra meaning like begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dua is a very powerful tool in our hands that we are not taking advantage of. I don't know how we can miss this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us access to Him 24/7. No appointment, nobody on the door, nobody will take an appointment. 24/7 Allah is accessible. I mean, people would love to have access to their boss if they give them some time. Allah is accessible all the time. Not only that, Allah is inviting us to ask. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ ud'uni astajib lakum. Allah is saying, ask me and I will answer your call. Can you have that accessibility, and then you are being invited to ask, and you are being promised to answer your dua, and yet people are not taking advantage of this very powerful tool. Allah Malikul Mulk, Rabbul Alameen, in whose hands everything in the world and everything related to you is giving you access all the time and asking you to make requests and promise you to answer, and you're not. You only have yourself to blame. We only have ourselves to blame if we don't use this powerful tool. Very powerful. It's like student being, just to bring the idea close, given access to their professors and they're not using it. And then they don't do well in the test, they have only themselves to take. So make sure to take advantage, especially in these days. In parallel, I'm going to come back to Salah and Quran. In parallel, you should be, from now, preparing for after Ramadan. Because that transition, many people fail in it. Actually, most people fail in the transition from Ramadan to after Ramadan. Why? Because they entered Ramadan with the wrong intention. They did not enter Ramadan to make permanent gains. They entered Ramadan to make temporary gains, and then when the Eid comes, they turn the page, and then they come down quickly. It's free fall. They come down to their pre-Ramadan level. So Ramadan had no lasting impact on them. Don't be among those people. Be aware of that transition, and remind yourself how hard you work to reach this level. And then remember that the night of Eid, the challenge switches in Ramadan to reach the highest level. After Ramadan is to stay, to maintain and preserve as many of the gains you made in Ramadan for as long as possible. So it became a defensive gain. Now I'm at that level, I'm going to strive my best to stay there and make it not a free fall, but slow or gradual descent. Even if it comes down should be very gradual. Now, you may not be able to keep that level after Ramadan. That's fine. We may not be able to pray Taraweeh like the same way, keep the same intensity after Ramadan. But don't abandon Qiyam al-Layl completely. You may reduce the numbers of rak'ah, you may reduce the length, you may reduce even frequency. It may not be even every night, but don't abandon it completely, because that's something that you worked hard to gain. 30 days, so now I'm going to keep Qiyam. How much? It depends. Hopefully daily, if you cannot, frequently, how many rak'ahs, etc. But keep that Qiyam that you gained in Ramadan after Ramadan. Whether it is after Isha, extra rak'ah, or you wake up before Fajr and do extra rak'ah. One, fasting. You're not going to be fasting every day after Ramadan, but also keep the fasting. 2 days a week, 1 day a week, 3 days a month, whatever you can. But keep that fasting after Ramadan. Prepare yourself from now that I'm not going to fall in that trap, that Ramadan is over, close parenthesis, go back, business as usual. No. I worked hard to reach this level. I'm going to try to stay there as much as possible. The same thing with the Quran, as we're going to be talking about. You probably did a lot, committed a lot of time to Quran in Ramadan. Don't close that parenthesis, try to keep as much as possible. Same thing with generosity. You may be, probably in Ramadan you are more motivated to give, to donate, but after Ramadan try also to keep that habit, maybe not at the same level. Even the Prophet ﷺ was more generous in Ramadan. أجود ما يكون في Ramadan. So maybe you're going to donate less, but again keep that thing that you gain. So we're going to focus more on the Salah and the Quran. Salah, alhamdulillah, we are all praying. We are praying after Ramadan. We are praying during Ramadan. Inshallah, we're going to continue to pray after Ramadan. So what effect Ramadan should have on our prayers? It should be on the quality. It should be on the quality of your prayer. We are required iqamat as-salah. Aqim as-salah. Establish prayer. Not perform it. Not get it out of the way. So try to work on the quality of your prayer in these days, and then keep that quality after Ramadan. Khushu'ah is very important. make sure that you do your best. You resist the temptation of any distraction so that you try to reach 100% concentration. Maybe not, maybe we will not reach that 100% or perfect, but do your best to maximize the concentration during prayer and minimize the distraction. So even if you're distracted for a few moments, you try to come back and focus on the Quran that you're reading and on the dhikr that you're making while you're doing ruku and sujood. And remember that your target in prayer should be to be aware of every word you mention from start to finish, from Allahu Akbar to Salam Alaikum. Your heart is present and you know what you're doing, you know what you're saying. Even the Fatiha that you know very well, you should read it with reflection. The tasbih that you do in ruku and sujood, you do it slowly and you do it also with concentration. That you're praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not doing it fast. I see people sometimes they make ruku and sujood. I don't know, there is not enough time to do 3 tasbih by doing this. So that's for salah. Now for Quran, by the way, salah and Quran are the mechanisms to maintain our iman and strengthen it throughout the year. Salah and Quran are your tools to maintain maintenance, keeping your iman and strengthening if possible. Quran is guidance, hudan, light, nur, shifa. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوى. And who amongst us does not need guidance? Nobody should feel that way. And we are, in every rak'ah we ask Allah to guide us. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And at the same time you feel that you are already there, so why you're making dua? Making dua because you know that no matter what you're doing, you're still not completely close the gap. You didn't close the gap completely. Because you want to elevate your prayers to the prayer of the Prophet, your manners to the manners of the Prophet, etc. So, Quran strengthens the 2 components of your iman. Quran makes you more motivated to do good in a very effective way. And Quran makes you more capable of restraining yourself. And that's what iman is all about. You become more motivated. Quran has very effective ways to make you very excited to do something good, to worship, to serve, to do more, etc. And at the same time, has very effective ways to strengthen your ability to restrain yourself, restrain your tongue, your senses, and restrain yourself from haram, etc. And salah, same thing. Quran says, إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. Good prayer will make you stronger in restraining yourself. إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. But which salah? It's not the mechanical prayer. There is no question. It's a salah that where your heart is present so that it is refreshed. Your iman is refreshed and renewed. Now what's the target with the Quran? We mentioned the target for salah is quality. Try to work on the quality of your prayers so that your prayer after Ramadan will be better than your prayer before Ramadan. The target with the Quran should be to have a daily session with the Quran of reading and reflecting to understand. How much you read, that depends on what time available to you. It might be even 1 verse, might be 2 verses, might be half a page. Don't worry about the quantity. It's not about how much you read. It's having that daily session with the Quran. To read a passage, a verse, couple of verses, etc., for understanding them and applying them. Understanding them and applying them. And let's get out of this idea that if I play Quran all the time in my car and in my house, and that's good enough. No, it's not good enough. If I'm reading Quran and finishing it, like every month or every whatever, that's not enough. It is reading to understand. It's to reflect and contemplate. لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this Quran was revealed so that they will contemplate and reflect on its verses. You do it in the same way you did when you studied in college. You take the Quran as a textbook. So you spend some time every day and taking notes and searching the meaning in exactly the same way as you did or as you are doing now in your study. You do it for how long? Forever, for life. And if you manage to do this with the whole Quran, then you will have very good notes. So keep them on the side. Whenever you read Quran, you check your notes. So now you are, until you reach a point where you may even not need them. It's like you go from open book exam to even closed book. You don't even need your notes because now you understand those verses very well. That's a lifetime or lifelong process. Just remember one thing that can help you doing this. That Quran is the food for your ruh, for your spirit. Quran is the nourishment, nutrition for your spirit. In the same way as the other food is nutrition for your body. What happens to your body if you don't eat? That's exactly what happens to your soul when you don't nourish it. So just remember, that's why I'm saying it has to be daily, has to be regular. Remember that I need to do this. It's like in the same way that I need to eat. And before you know it, it's going to be something that you cannot afford to miss it. Why? It becomes an integral part of your schedule and of your daily life. Without Quran, your soul, what happens to your soul, it's the same like your body without nourishment. Iman will go down. Your motivation to do good and to worship will go down. The quality of your prayer will go down. The ability to restrain yourself will go down. Everything will go down. And Quran does exactly the opposite. Will make all of these ascending curves. So number one, you have to remember that you need it badly. It's not luxury. And if you want to just try staying for a long time without eating or without drinking, same thing. So make sure that you remember and remind yourself and resist that misconception that no, it is not needed. No, you need it badly. That's one. And number two, you need to remember that you can. Because these are the two things that are blocking people from taking advantage of Quran. Some people will say that they feel they don't need it because they think they know their religion and they're doing what they're supposed to do. What Quran is going to add to me? And I know how to pray and fasting and I'm doing the basic things. So what is going to? No, it is. As I said, it's going to nourish and strengthen your iman. And number two, you can. And here we're going to start and really challenge ourselves, all of us. You find someone who did medicine, engineering, finances, whatever, complicated majors, and get a bachelor's degree, taking at least 120 credits, and in the process studied about 40 textbooks, at least. Some majors and some degrees, they require even more. And this person said, but Quran, I cannot read it, I cannot understand it. To that point, I know we're fooling ourselves. We are deceiving ourselves when we say we cannot understand the Quran. We are not making the effort, not we cannot understand it. So try also to get rid of that idea. And remember that there are things that are so complicated that you were able to study them and to understand them. Read the Quran to extract the message and then to embody the Quran. You want to become Like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, كان القرآن يمشي بين الناس. He was a walking Quran. And then, once you do that, then you are ready to share what you have understood and what you are implementing, what you are applying. So when we meet, we always have something to exchange. When I'm studying the Quran, I'm probably studying different verses than you. So when we meet, I have something to share with you and I have something to pick from you. So reading to understand, implement, and to share. If we conclude with this, if we don't come out of Ramadan with that regular daily session of the Quran and with higher quality prayer, we missed it. To that point, I'm urging all of us to think this way. If we don't emerge from Ramadan with gaining that habit of daily session with the Quran and starting that journey of studying it, and with a higher quality prayer than before Ramadan, then we missed the opportunity and we did not take full advantage of it. And then we have the dhikr, as I mentioned, and the dua, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ ادعوني أستجب لكم وتوبوا إلى الله إنه غفور رحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. With the respected brother and sister in Islam, we have a great book, we have a great religion, very inspiring, very empowering. We just need to leverage it. We need to make the effort to leverage it. Every one of us has, either at home or in your phone, a treasure called the Quran. There is so much you can gain out of it. And as I said, you can and you should. You can and you must. So make it part of your daily. And if you want to add a third habit, or if you want to add another thing to have a balanced life, then feed your mind with reading and with knowledge. That's how you have a very balanced. You're feeding your body, you're feeding your soul, and you're feeding your mind, and you'll have a very balanced personality. And the statute or the ranking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated for us as dignified creation of His. Unfortunately, it seems there are some signs or indication that might be an invasion of Rafah, Gaza. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to spare the people of Gaza the situation from becoming worse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy on them and alleviate their suffering and spare them this looming tragedy. Try to keep them in your dua, especially in these blessed days, and you never know who amongst us will have their dua answered and will help those people. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم القرب ومتعنا اللهم بنظر وجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا جميعا موتى المسلمين. اللهم بلغنا ليلة القدر واكتب لنا قيامها إيمانا واحتسابا. اللهم بلغنا وأشهدنا ليلة القدر وأعنا على قيامها إيمانا واحتسابا. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.